Good morning. Good morning. Welcome to the First Universalist Unitarian Church. My name is Amy Place, and I am a member of this congregation. I want to extend a special welcome to everyone joining us here and online this morning. Since 1858, UU Wasa has served as a vital voice for liberal religion in central Wisconsin. We are an intentionally free society that welcomes all people, just as you are, regardless of age, sexual orientation, ethnicity, or economic situation. Wherever you are on life's journey, you are welcome here. We are currently worshiping both in person and online, so be sure to subscribe to the church's newsletter, follow us on Facebook or Instagram for updates. I have 3 announcements this morning. Our February potluck is next Sunday. Please contact Cheryl Hemp if you can help set up this event or clean up afterwards. Her contact information is in the yellow pages in your order of worship. The Soup and Nut Bread Sale will take place on Sunday, February 12th, Soup Herbal Sunday. Your contribution of soup should be brought to the church in a labeled quart jar. Extra jars are available in the atrium and can be stored in the freezer in the church kitchen if you can't be here on the 12th. Bread should be a standard size loaf. Proceeds from the sale will go toward the purchase of additional listening assistive devices. Lastly, members and friends are invited to join the RE team for a lunch and learn after service today. During lunch, we'll share more about the metaphorical water RE is swimming in, both in terms of the larger landscape of faith and cultural shifts, and prepare us to take our next step, several small group sessions where you will be able to share your fears, hopes, and desires for our RE program. And with that, let us gather our hearts and minds for worship. Please join me in reciting the church's chalice lighting. You will find the words printed in the order of service. We light this chalice for the light of truth, the warmth of love, and the fire of commitment. We light the symbol of our faith as we gather together. Will we gather? Excuse me while I futz. Will we gather on the ancestral home of Indigenous peoples, the Menominee, the Potawatomi, the Ho-Chunk Nation of Winnebago? We remember our obligations to good stewardship of these lands and right relations with all their inhabitants, past and present. And so we come to this time and this place to rediscover the wondrous gift of free religious community, to renew our faith in the holiness, goodness, and beauty of life, to reaffirm the way of the open mind and the full heart, to rekindle the flame of memory and hope, and to reclaim the vision of an earth made fair and all her people one. Come, let us worship, let us shape worth together. Our opening hymn is number 38, Morning Has Broken. If you would open your hymnals to that hymn and rise in body or spirit as you are able.
Sweet the rain's new fall, sunlit from heaven, like the first dew fall on the first grass. Praise for the sweetness of the wet garden, sprung in completeness where God's feet pass. Mine is the sunlight, mine is the morning, born of the one light Eden saw play. Praise with elation, praise every morning, God's recreation of the new day.
If you would remain where you are and join with me in the affirmation printed in your order of service. Love is the doctrine of this church. The quest of truth is its sacrament, and service is its prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge in freedom, to serve human need, to the end that all souls shall grow into harmony with the divine. Thus do we covenant with each other. And join with me in the doxology.
From all that dwell below the skies, let songs of hope and faith arise. Let peace, goodwill on earth be sung, through every land, by every tongue.
Amen, and yet again, amen. You may be seated.
This morning I'd like to share with you a story called Does God Have a Big Toe? It's from a book of the same name by Mark Gellum and Oscar de Mejo. Long ago, all the people lived in a place called Babel. Not only did every person live in the same place, but every person spoke the same language, which made life very easy. Getting the news was easy, and you didn't have to learn a new language in high school. But Arena's question changed all that. Arena asked, Mommy, I have a big toe, and you have a big toe, and Daddy has a big toe. Does God have a big toe too? Now, everything might have been all right had Arena's mother just said, Arena, God is not a person. God is special and wonderful, and God is the creator of the universe. God has made each of us in his own image, but God is not a person. And that is why God does not have a big toe. But Arena's mother was busy and said, go ask your father. So she did, but Arena's father was also busy with something, and he told her, go ask your grandpa. I've been on this little goose chase before. Grandpa was in his garden digging up the weeds with his friend Fred, who worked in the king's palace. Arena asked, Grandpa, I have a big toe, and Mommy has a big toe, and Daddy has a big toe, and you have a big toe, and Fred has a big toe. Does God have a big toe too? Now, Arena's grandpa was a little hard of hearing and said, does God have a garden hoe? I don't know if God has a garden hoe. I suppose if God has a garden, God must have a garden hoe. After all, you can't get rid of weeds without a gardening hoe. Fred whispered to Ariana that he would ask the king the next day. The king thought, and he issued a proclamation.
You, the people of Babel, will build a tower up to the sky so that I, your king, can stand on top of this tower and look at God's foot. Then I will tell you if God has a big toe.
The king ordered the builders to use only the best bricks and the best tar to stick them together. The Tower of Babel grew higher and higher every day. Now God knew that if everyone was working on the tower, then nobody would be working in the fields growing things. No one would be in the shops making things. And he knew soon all the bricks and tar in Babel would be used up. And then people in Babel would have nothing to make their houses out of. God thought about just knocking the tower down, but God knew if the Babylonians would just build it up again to see if God had a big toe. So there was only one thing to do. The next day, when Irina came to watch the work at the tower, she heard Fred ask his friend for a brick, and his friend answered, Ma'ata ratza? What do you want in Hebrew? And turned to another guy with tar who said, arigato, thank you in Japanese. And asked a guy with a shovel who said, como esta? How's it going in Spanish? And looked at a fellow with a wheelbarrow who said, Gesundheit, good health in German. Soon bricks and tar were flying everywhere, and by the end of the day, people who spoke the same language were heading out of town together. Irina and her family decided to leave town too with Fred and Grandpa and a few other people who could still understand them. They packed up everything they owned and left Babel. And on the cart, Irina was quiet for a while and then asked, Mommy, I have a belly button, and you have a belly button, and Daddy has a belly button. Does God have a belly button too? And that is our story for today. I invite you to sing our children and youth off to their RE groups this morning with May Peace Surround You. The words are printed in your order of worship.
May peace surround you, may love surround you, as you go on your way. May peace surround you, may love surround you, as you go on your way.
The mission and ministry of UU Wasa is made possible by the generous support of its friends and members. Rather than pass a plate at this time, we've placed an offering basket in the back of the sanctuary for you to drop a gift in. You can also stop by our website, uuwasa.org, to make a one-time or recurring gift with your credit or debit card. Thank you for your support.
Well, now we take a moment to feel the stillness, still our bodies, if that's possible, still our minds, even harder still, while we give each other a blessing. May this blessing of light be upon you, light without and light within. May the blessed sunlight shine upon you and warm your heart till it glows like a great fire, so that strangers may come and warm themselves, so that friends may partake of its warmth. May the light shine out of the eyes of you, like a candle set in the windows of a house, bidding the wanderer to come in from the storm. May we all carry our lamp into dark places, for we too have been lonely and without a light. If you would open your hymnals to hymn number 123, Spirit of Life, remain seated. The next reading is from a book by Terry Bisson, Bear Discovers Fire. Now, the setting is deep space, just beyond the range of Earth's best telescopes. The leader of the 5th Explorer Force is speaking to the Commander-in-Chief. They're made out of meat.
Meat?
Meat! They're made out of meat.
Just meat?
Well, there's no doubt about it. We picked several from different parts of the planet, took them aboard our recon vessels, probed them all the way through. They're completely meat.
That's impossible. That's impossible. What about the radio signals, the messages to the stars?
Well, they use radio waves to talk, but the signals don't come from them. The signals come from the machines.
Oh, so who made the machines? That's who we want to contact.
They made the machines. That's what I'm trying to tell you. Meat made the machines.
That is ridiculous. How can meat make a machine? You're asking me to believe in sentient meat.
Well, I'm not asking you, I'm telling you. These creatures are the only sentient race in the sector, and they're made out of meat.
Well, maybe they're like the Orify. You know, a carbon-based intelligence that goes through a meat stage? Nope. They're born meat and they die meat. We studied them for several of their lifespans, which didn't take long. You have no idea the short lifespan of meat. Oh, spare me. Okay, maybe they're only part meat. You know, like the Wasilczuk, a meat head with an electron plasma brain inside.
No, we thought of that, since they do have meat heads, like the Wasilczuk. But I told you, we probed them. They're meat all the way through.
Well, no brain?
Oh, there is a brain, all right. It's just that the brain is made out of meat also.
So what does the thinking?
You're not understanding, are you? The brain does the thinking, the meat.
Thinking meat? You're asking me to believe in thinking meat?
Yes, thinking meat, conscious meat, loving meat, dreaming meat. Well, the meat is the whole deal. Well, are you getting the picture?
Oh my God, you're serious then. They're made out of meat.
Finally, yes, they are indeed made out of meat, and they've been trying to get in touch with us for almost 100 of their years.
So what does this meat have in mind?
First, it wants to talk to us. Then I imagine it wants to explore the universe, contact other sentients, swap ideas and information, the usual.
We're supposed to talk to meat?
Well, that's the idea. That's the message they're sending out by radio. Hello, anyone out there? Anyone home? Well, that sort of thing.
They actually do talk then. They use words, ideas, concepts.
Oh, yes, except they do it with meat.
I thought you just told me they do it by radio.
Well, they do, but what do you think is on the radio? Meat sounds. You know how when you slap or flap meat, it makes a noise? They talk by flapping a small opening of their meat at each other. Well, they can even sing by squirting air through their meat.
Oh my God, singing meat. This is altogether too much. So, what do you advise?
Well, officially or unofficially?
Oh, both.
Well, officially, we are required to contact, welcome, and log in any and all sentient races or multi-beings in the quadrant without prejudice, fear, or favor. Unofficially, I advise that we delete the records and forget the whole damn thing.
I was hoping you'd say that.
Well, it seems harsh, but there is a limit. I mean, do we really want to make contact with meat?
Oh, I agree 100%. What's there to say? Hello, meat, how's it going? How will this work? How many planets are we dealing with here?
Well, just one. They can travel to other planets in special meat containers, but they can't live in them.
and can't live on the other planets. And being meat, they only travel through sea space, which limits them to the speed of light and makes the possibility of their ever making contact pretty slim. Well, infinitesimal, in fact. So we pretend there's no one home in this universe. Well, that's it. Well, it's cruel, but you said it yourself. Who wants to meet meat? Well, so far we've had a number of theologies expressed here. When I first
found Unitarian Universalism, I was going to an Amnesty International startup meeting in the basement of a church that was just 2 blocks away from where I'd lived for the last couple years and been going to university, went through nursing school, had served as a nurse, and was going off to a little place in Alaska. And I picked up some pamphlets at that church, and I read about Unitarian Universalism. And I thought, oh my goodness, these people give me the space to believe or not believe what I feel in my heart is true. Here are a bunch of pagans and theists and atheists, and oh my goodness, they have the chutzpah to call themselves a church. These are my people. I was blessed, and believe me, I don't honestly believe in miracles, but it was a miracle that there was a Unitarian Universalist fellowship in a little town of 6,500 people in Alaska, where I moved. So we've gone from all kinds of theologies. Now we are going to talk about different kinds of atheism. Sherwin Wine talks about this in one of his books, but it's quoted in a book by Greg Epstein, a book called Good Without God. What a billion non-religious people do believe. And it shows that you don't have to be a theologian to count how many angels or non-angels are on the head of a pin. So there are different kinds of atheism. Sherwin writes, the most popular kind is ontological atheism, a firm denial that there is any creator or manager of the universe. So ontological. There is ethical atheism, a firm conviction that even if there is a creator manager of the world, he or she does not run things in accordance with the human moral agenda, rewarding the good and punishing the wicked. There is existential atheism, a nervier assertion that even if there is a God, he, she, it, has no authority to be the boss of my life. Sounds like a 5-year-old. Okay, 7-year-old, yeah. There is agnostic atheism, a cautious denial that claims that God's existence can be neither proved nor disproved. This type of atheist ends up with a behavior no different from the ontological atheist. There is agnostic atheism, another cautious denial, which claims that the word God is so confusing that it is meaningless. This belief, again, translates into the same behavior as that first kind of atheist. There is pragmatic atheism, which regards God as irrelevant to ethical and successful living, and which views all discussions about God as a waste of time. But, Greg Epstein concludes in his book, Good Without God, none of these terms has anything to do with what we do believe. Which leads us to ask, what is an atheist doing in a pew? And you actually honestly have pews here. What is an atheist doing sitting in a pew? Pews come in churches, they come in mosques and temples, and those buildings come with religion. And religion, well, religion has been the source of some epic missteps. Missteps is a small word to use for it. Witch hunts, the Inquisition, crusades, jihads in the worst, most inaccurate sense of the word jihad, persecution of Muslims, of Christians as infidels, persecution of Jews because they killed Christ, dismissal of Buddhists or Hindus for belief in no gods or too many gods. What is an atheist doing sitting in that pew? Pews come with hierarchies, oftentimes with ministers or priests, deacons, monsignors, bishops, archbishops, popes, monks, imams, rabbis, people who can order you around, people who tell you what is right and what is totally wrong. Religion comes with creeds and dogmas and doctrines, all sorts of things that you are expected to believe. In heaven, in hell, in miracles, in angels, in original sin, woman responsible for the fall of man or humankind. Religions come with certain worldviews, certain ideas. We are right and you are wrong.
In the United States, we're told by the religious right the country is going to hell in a handbasket because people believe in evolution, or people believe in global climate change, or because we read the liberal media and we are bamboozled by their perspective. The country is going to hell in a handbasket because women and men are using contraceptives. Women are demanding reproductive justice and equity for themselves. Kids are getting educated about the practicalities and nuances and responsibilities of sex. Unmarried people are having sex. People of the same gender are having sex. They're not only having sexual intercourse, they're getting married. These changes are all due to the godless, secular humanists out there on the front lines of change oftentimes. Some of them at this very moment sitting in the pew right next to you. What is a godless, secular humanist doing sitting in a pew? Churches and temples and mosques may hold very, very different worldviews from your average, if you can call them average, atheist or non-theist. Churches and organized religions can be vicious, intolerant, self-righteous, filled with hypocrisy and paranoia, a bastion of patriarchy, homophobic, anti-science, the realm of flatlanders. Oh my goodness, am I bad-mouthing them? But it's true. Some churches can be like that. Some religions can be like that, filled with folks who are so certain about God, about who God is and what God looks like. He's certainly not some blazing electron plasma divine being. We are created in his image, so God must be sentient meat, just like his creation. God must have that big toe, although I must say a word for that young woman. She is a scientist. She wants proof to see exactly what God looks like and what God has. She wants to see it with her eyes. She's not just going to believe it just because you said so. And oftentimes those ultra-religious folks are equally certain they know what it is God wants us all to do. So what are we doing here? What's an agnostic, a freethinker, an ethical rationalist doing in a pew? Well, atheism in its many iterations has a long history. Even in antiquity, there are those who disbelieved in gods. They were labeled atheist. With the rise of science, the number of people who denied belief in the supernatural, the literalness of the Bible, those numbers rose. They rose slowly, but for centuries it was dangerous to say you questioned the orthodox certainties about God or gods and creed and dogma. Being questioning or nonconformist, being heterodox, not in accordance with established theological beliefs, was heretical. So whether you're sitting in this pew and you call yourself a Buddhist or a theist or a Christian or an atheist or a person who follows the Tao or a naturalist humanist, you're all considered heretical. Heresy means choosing. Heresy means choosing one's own beliefs. Being a heretic often could be a punishable offense, even a lethal punishment. Our anti-Trinitarian forebear, Michael Servetus, in 1553, 570 years ago, was burned at the stake with his book. It was called Against the Trinity. He questioned the literal truthfulness of the Trinity. His book strapped to his thigh. In our own history, Universalist minister Abner Neeland was accused of atheism in the 1830s. Now, Neeland preached in several parishes, most of them on the East Coast and heading inland, and wrote pamphlets about his beliefs, and his beliefs became increasingly unorthodox. Neeland believed that the scriptures came out of human experience rather than divine revelation. He believed in no period of punishment after death, like he was a universalist. No God, no hell for
everyone because you weren't in the right religion. He advocated the practice of birth control and spoke for women's rights. This was 1830s. He spoke for racial equality. He insisted on free thought and the right of conscience. He believed that people's concept of God was a figment of their imagination, that the story of Jesus was a fable, that miracles did not happen, and that there is no eternal life. Now, some of us, of course, believe that there are different concepts of God, and there are stories, or there are important lessons in fables, but Abner Nealon's beliefs at that time were considered blasphemous. They were uttered about God, against God and sacred beliefs. They were irreverent and profane, and Abner Nealon holds the distinction of being the last person in the United States to be convicted and imprisoned for blasphemy. In 1832, he served 60 days in jail. After that, he traveled to Ohio and formed a commune there, gave up the ministry. There wasn't space for him to speak his own truths. Now, blasphemy, speaking about God or sacred beliefs in an irreverent manner. About half of European countries still have blasphemy laws on the books. They're rarely enforced. Outside the Western world, laws against and punishment for blasphemy are not unusual. And so we remember the 1989 fatwa against author Salman Rushdie. And we remember the 2011 bombing of Charlie Hebdo, the French satirical magazine, and we remember more recent bombings of mosques and temples in this country and around the world. Now, the latest information I could get is in our congregations, about 20% of Unitarian Universalists say that God is an irrelevant concept, and that the central focus of religion should be human knowledge and values. In that respect, the little girl in Babel was a good, questioning person who could question about what God really was, what God really looked like. Another 2% of UUs say that God is a concept that may be actually harmful to worldwide religions. And indeed, back in the late 1960s, I saw in Newsweek, there was a report that to many mainstream Christians, Unitarians are largely atheistic intellectuals who can't kick the habit of going to church. And certainly in the 60s and the 70s, you were supposed to be able to list a church and a religion on your child's form for entering school, for when you went to the hospital. So which of these priests or ministers or rabbis did you want to visit you? So atheism is an appropriate topic for religious discussion among us. And religion, I use that in the broad term that I talked about, talking about the things that bind us together, the things that connect us to each other and to our world. The depth and the breadth of those connections is religion. Now, after the events of 9/11, a discussion about atheism arose, and it was called a new atheism. And the term new atheism was coined by the American journalist Gary Wolfe in 2006. Now, new atheists advocated that superstition, religion, and irrationalism should simply not be tolerated. Now, the new atheism was marked by a number of books. Neuroscientist Sam Harris wrote The End of Faith, Religion, Terror, and the Future of Reason. He blamed the events of 9/11 on Islam, while also criticizing Christianity and Judaism. Biologist Richard Dawkins writes The God Delusion. The British essayist and journalist Christopher Hitchens pens God is Not Great, How Religion Poisons Everything. This new atheism, when I read those books or parts of those books, it seems intolerant of ignorance, myth, and superstition. Okay? But new atheism often contends that tolerance of religion, any sort of religion, is misguided, wrong-headed, if not downright dangerous. New atheism believes in logic, reason, and the advancement of a naturalistic worldview, and I understand why folks are drawn to these books. We do believe in science. We are aware of the many ways religion has and continues to fail, to fall short of its ideals. But the new atheists kind of reveled in being caustic and oppositional, as it sells books. Their stance is a far cry from another older doubter, the philosopher, poet, and author George Santayana, who wrote mostly in the early and mid 20th century. Santayana was an agnostic and what he calls an aesthetic Catholic. I resonate with that because I grew up in the Polish Roman Catholic tradition, and I often call myself a smells and bells Unitarian Universalist. I like those candles and processions and music and the ritual. So Santayana was an aesthetic Catholic. He is reputed to have said, "There is no God, and Mary is his mother." So, yeah, the Unitarian Universalist minister Roger Bruin once started a sermon with these words: Unitarians think there is no God, and, Unitarians believe there is one God, and we don't believe in him. And of course, there is the Unitarian joke. Unitarians, we're the folks who believe in one God at most. Yeah. Unless you're a Buddhist and maybe meditate on a variety of gods and goddesses. So there's also always unless your spirituality takes you in a different direction. But what are these non-believers doing sitting in a pew? And there's lots of reasons. We come for serious conversation with a community who will listen to and accept our non-belief. We come to hone our ideas about what it is we should do, how it is we should be with one another, what it is we do believe in. As French philosopher André Comte-Sponville writes in his little book of atheist spirituality, frankly, do you need to believe in God to be convinced that sincerity is preferable to dishonesty, courage to cowardice, generosity to egoism, gentleness and compassion to violence and cruelty? Do you need to believe in God to be convinced that justice is preferable to injustice, love to hate? Of course not. So a new series of books explore the possibilities and define what it is to be a spiritual skeptic or atheist. Robert Solomon, in his book Spirituality for the Skeptic, defines spirituality as the thoughtful love of life. He goes on to say that spirituality, like philosophy, comes to grips with the big picture and our need for a larger sense of our lives. Solomon argues that spirituality, like philosophy, involves those aspects of our lives that are not reducible to career strategies, to personal psychology, to civic responsibilities, or the fluctuation of our economic or romantic fortunes. Spirituality, like philosophy, involves those questions that have no ultimate answers, no matter how desperately our various doctrines and dogmas try to provide them. The questions like, why are we here? Why am I here? What was before we were? What was before I was? How am I to live? How are we to live with one another? Why is there disease, suffering, pain, death? Some of us take the artistic route to answer these questions. Some of us take the scientific route. Some of us take the religious, a-religious, whatever it in the world is I'm doing up here route. In the pew, we all, atheist, agnostic, theist, and other, we all come to think about our really important things. Philosophy and religion author Sam Keen, in The Absence of God, dwelling in the presence of the sacred, argues that no God is necessary for us to experience wonder or fascination at the intricate workings of the natural world. No God is necessary for us to feel our absolute interdependence with the natural world and with our human community. No God is necessary for us to be compassionate, to say thank you early and often, to feel humbled before the majesty of the night sky or the mysteries of the atom. No God is necessary for us to feel that we walk on holy ground. So whether you are a theist and entertain all of these questions, whether you're an atheist and you entertain all these questions, coming to church, we are reminded of the holy, or of the whole, the healthy, the whole in our lives. We are reminded that a consumer society preys on our insecurity and our envy. We're reminded that we are descendants of the Big Bang, the great radiance, the beginnings of the cosmos, the creation, all made of stardust, power, and light. Keen's sort of spirituality is a way to re-enchant our everyday life. Many science writers, E.O. Wilson, who primarily studied ants, but I have a book out on the table in the foyer by E.O. Wilson, Ursula Goodenough, wonderful scientist, who then reflects on those underpinnings of her understanding of science. Stephen Jay Gould, they write of science and nature with reverence, a sense of awe, and the majesty of it all. We gather on a Sunday to figure out how to be the very best stardust we can be. We come to be reminded of this great gift of life, a gift we did not choose, but must learn to use with compassion and wisdom. We sing of morning, a new dawn, a light of hope and peace and love. We sing of the spirit of life. We come for the intellectual stimulation. We come to raise doubts, ask questions, confirm or refine our worldview. We come to remember the turning of the seasons, the holidays, the holy days that mark the year's passing. Holocaust remembrance, spring, Easter. We come to voice our deepest concerns. We come to celebrate our important life passages. We come to mourn with one another, to acknowledge and emphasize and affirm the uniqueness of an individual and the sorrow we feel at their passing. We come for the companionship, a place where others know our name, part of our life story. Through health and sickness, love lost and found, triumph and disappointment, wonder and despair, we come. We come. We sit in the pews. We listen to whatever the minister is blathering about up here. We come to hear Margaret's music, beautiful music, and the choir. We come to be encouraged. We come with our failures, our pain, our loss. We come with thanks and praise. We come to a place we are recognized and honored and welcomed for who we are and what we believe in. To stand for peace, to make change, to remember that we need not think alike to love alike. So may it ever be so. May we make it so. Blessed be, and amen. Our closing hymn is number 128, For All That Is Our Life.
we sing our thanks and praise, for all life is a gift which we are called to use to build the common good and make our own days glad. For needs which others serve, for services we give, for work and its rewards, for hours of rest and love, we come with thanks and praise. For all that is our life, for sorrow we must bear, for failures, pain, and loss, for each new thing we learn, for fearful hours that pass, we come with praise and thanks. For all that is our life, for all that is our life, we sing our thanks and praise, for all life is a gift which we are called to use to build the common good and make our own days glad.
So take courage, my friends. The way is often hard, the path is never clear, and the stakes are very high. But take courage, for deep down there is another truth. We are not alone. Please be seated for the postlude. Carry this flame, be the best stardust you could be.